On December 7th, 2017, on the grounds of Tokyo's Tomioka Hachimangu Shrine, 58-year-old head priestess Nagako Tomioka exited her vehicle, stepping out into the cool evening air one final time. In the shadows behind a neighboring building, her brother, Shinenaga Tomioka, lay in wait with his wife Michiko. As Nagako and her driver approached the nearly 400-year-old shrine, her brother approached her, removing a 31-inch blade from his person, slashing her across the chest and stabbing her through the back of the head. Captured on security camera and later reported by police, the couple leaves the sister's body, crossing through the shrine, ending up in a quiet residential neighborhood, where Shinenaga removed a second blade, stabbing his wife before turning the blade on himself, leaving 3 dead and the driver seriously injured and bleeding several blocks away. The country was stunned. Japan, a nation known for its politeness and minimal crime rate, was suddenly face to face with an act of evil, one that, for a time, left the police and locals alike scratching their heads for a motive. Sometime later, news outlets and tabloids began to piece together a long-standing grudge between Shinenaga and his family over succession rights to the family shrine, and the word tatari began to circulate on forums and comment threads across the web. Shinenaga had previously been the head priest of the shrine, appointed in 1995, but later was forced to step down in 2001. The father resumed control of the shrine for a time before willing it to his daughter, Nagako, in 2010. Shinenaga had at this time been arrested for attempted blackmail, writing a letter to his sister saying that he would send her to hell. The day before the attack, an acquaintance of Shinenaga's was asked to deliver 2,800 letters addressed to various businesses and shrines across Japan that, among other things, read, "If these demands aren't met," referring to his son becoming the head priest, "I shall remain in this world after my death as an onryo, and forever exact vengeance against responsible board members and their descendants." Curses, it would seem, are alive and well on the island nation. Curses and superstition in Japan take all kinds of forms, from card purification ceremonies to the social media and messaging service Line playing host to any number of services that offer curse services, one of which I managed to find that has a webpage that looks like it's from the 90s. That's how you know it's Japanese. And even has a weird and Malaise YouTube page with hour-long videos of nothing other than stock images and stock video overlaid with unnerving atmospheric music, with the real haunting videos showcasing interviews with individuals who had their curses serviced by the organization itself. The website has an English landing page, which, aside from being kind of hilarious, shows the services they offer with an interesting FAQ and section that shares their history. That being said, I don't recommend using this or any other service dealing in the occult, but this website and the proliferation of others like it points to a market for services like this and the belief that these services, on some level, work and are worth paying for. Negative human emotion is volatile, explosive. Anger and pain, vengeance and spite are catalysts by which both curses in Jujutsu Kaisen and curses within the greater context of Japan come into existence. By his own admission, Mahito, introduced in episode 7, confesses his belief to be born of the very hatred that humans have of one another, and, as a being born of hatred for other humans, contains no sympathy, remorse, or concern for human lives, instead taking it upon himself to mutilate and transfigure the very humans that aided in his creation for nothing more than curiosity's sake, with the justification that he just can.
これは一人の人間をどこまで大きくできるかの実験。
Mahito, through and through, is a villain. I don't think anyone who's seen this series could disagree with that interpretation. He isn't the result of unnatural phenomena or an experiment gone wrong, but he's kind of a reflection of us, the viewer, of the Jujutsu users in the show, of Gojo Sensei, Yuji, the panda, all who carry great power and manifest their abilities through curse energy, and carry the same burden of negative emotions as you or I. We could all conceivably walk the same path as Mahito if unhindered by our better nature, and in some way aided likewise in his creation. Mahito is very much a part of all of us. Sin, in the loosest interpretation, incarnate. Without the morality to judge his own actions, he takes to the world like a child, acting without fear of consequence. Curses in many ways in the Shinto traditions surrounding their origin have shaped Japanese myth, legend, and culture of the past, present, and presumably future, if the popularity of Jujutsu Kaisen is anything to judge by. And to anyone watching the show, even those unfamiliar with Japan's long infatuation with ghosts, kami, and views on death and purification, can see that Jujutsu Kaisen is absolutely dripping in imagery that's nostalgic of a time that seemingly no longer exists, and conversely still very much exists in the minds and society of the people that call Japan home. So let's talk about some of this imagery and why it's so fucking cool, starting with one of the curses themselves, Jogo. Jogo's black teeth, or ahaguro, are modeled after Japanese aristocracy dating back to the Kofun period, used in part to signal status in the same way that having straight teeth or a perfect smile is thought of today. Doing so was also used to preserve teeth into old age, using a mixture made out of ferric acetate from iron fillings mixed with vinegar and tannin from vegetables or tea. The practice eventually fell out of popularity as Western beauty standards began to make their way into Japan, with the Meiji government eventually banning the practice entirely in the late 1880s. It's fitting then that Jugo both speaks, walks, and acts like an old man from a forgotten era, clinging to the habits and mannerisms of a dead line of aristocrats who holds on to his strength and power as something to be prideful of, and to hold over curses and humans alike. His abilities themselves are reminiscent of a period of time in Japan, and really anywhere else in the world, where fire, and by extension volcanic eruptions, were forces of nature layered in mystery and superstition, the fear of which likely are what breathed life into his strength. To my knowledge, I don't believe he ever specifies this being conditions for his conception, though, come on. Volcano head. Okay, next, let's talk Kugisaki. This explosive country bumpkin fights and exorcises demons with hammer, nails, and straw effigies that draw on the Edo period method of cursing others, called Ushi no Toki Mairi, literally the Hour of the Ox, in which typically a scorned woman, Kugisaki, would arrive at a Shinto shrine at the Hour of the Ox between 1 and 3 a.m. and affix either nails directly into a sacred tree or nail an effigy into the tree, essentially drawing on the kami of the tree and surrounding area to aid in cursing the target of their malice. Which, can I just say, is super cool, considering that it seems like guns and cleavers and presumably any other weapon can be imbued with curse energy. For Kugisaki to choose these weapons to fight with either points at her deep understanding of where these practices come from and its literal maxed out curse stats, or that she, as most Japanese people do, associate these items with curses in general. There's a poem in the tale of Genji that goes, "Upon a narrow grass mat, laying down her robe only, tonight again she must be waiting for me, Hashihime of Uji." This poem, delivered by an unfaithful husband, tells the story of Hashihime, who, upon learning of her husband's affair, commits Ushi no Toki Mairi, becoming an Oni whose spirit lingers forever tied to Uji Bridge. Far from just being legend, there are modern day cases of this that pop up over and over again. Searching the phrase in Japanese here on YouTube reveals an entire community of Japanese YouTubers who specialize in finding modern day traces of these rituals, finding nail holes in trees where the act was committed, and sharing these stories with their viewers. I'd like to briefly share one more example of Ushi no Toki Mairi with you, really just to illustrate the blending of past and future when it comes to curses in Japan, and share with you a piece of media I found while researching this subject. This film is called Kanawa, or The Iron Crown in English, and was directed by the prolific filmmaker Kaneto Shindo in 1972. This film features some of the most truly horrifying and gratuitous scenes I could find that illustrate this trope, with its terrifyingly beautiful blend of late 70s Japanese cinema and no theater, from which the film pulls its name and influence. It's haunting and beautiful in its scenes and score that make it seem as if the viewer is peering into a world that we don't really have permission to see. I should also mention that this film was painstakingly hard to find. After coming across a shockingly eerie trailer on YouTube, I did my best to find the source itself, only to find myself come up empty-handed, until realizing that this film was tagged as smut and softcore porn, meaning that I had to, yes, research porn for this video. You're welcome. Anyway, this film centers around a woman who has been betrayed by her unfaithful husband, which is kind of a common theme in these stories, who is now seeing and sleeping with another woman. The wife, scorned and justifiably bitter, commits to an act of ushi no tokimairi, kneeling in effigy to a tree at a sacred Shinto shrine. She does this night after night, disfiguring the doll beyond recognition. The act begins to take effect immediately, turning the wife into a demon who begins to haunt the couple during their moments of intimacy, beginning with receiving disturbing and otherworldly phone calls, to mild supernatural appearances by the wife, to outright ensnaring the couple in a kind of inescapable hotel from hell, where the wife's curse manifests by appearing as an oni to the husband and leaving the couple flailing for a way to escape the hotel and small town they find themselves in, covered in a layer of fog and populated with characters that seem keen to keep them exactly as they are. It's chilling and eerie and spectacular in all the ways that curses should be. Plus, the mixture of traditional no theater being used to show the world of the supernatural juxtaposed with the regularly filmed scenes which showcase our own, all lend to a level of credence and weight to the weapons Kugisaki battles with, and in using them to stave off curses rather than cause them, shows their evolution as well as enduring legacy. Okay, last little historical tidbit, let's talk about the king of curses himself, Sukuna, who is just so awesome. He's powerful, he's loud, and just so damn cocky. I love it. He's hinted at early on as being a creature so full of immeasurable curse energy that disposing of the fragments of his body that remain are a mission in futility. Even a monster like Gojo Sensei, with powers beyond even the strongest curses we've seen to this point, is unable to leave a scratch on a single finger. Though capable of handling Sukuna in Itadori's body after consuming a single finger, 1 out of 20, and claiming to be able to defeat Sukuna should his power be restored, it seems that Gojo's confidence may just be a front that masks doubt at best. The realization that his power may not be enough in the future is why I think he places so much hope in the future generation, commenting that his students may be able to surpass him given the right leadership. Anyway, back to Sukuna. The king himself is based on a legend that predates even the tale of Genji, and first appears in recordings of the Nihon Shoki, or Nihongi, the second oldest historical record in Japan. Finished in 720 AD, which for context is likely around the same time that the Vikings began their raids on Europe, the Mayans were likewise at the height of their civilization, and the horse collar of all things began usage in Northern Europe. We're talking some old and obscure history here. Also, real quick aside, I'll be talking about Sukuna, the person and the legend, and drawing on some connections between him and the show. So no, I haven't read the manga and I don't know what happens, but with this info we may be able to infer and understand the character Sukuna will become later. Sukuna, as he's known in the Nihon Shoki, is described as, in the year 65, there was a man in Hida province. He was named Sukuna. The man had a single head and torso with 2 faces, each face oriented in opposite directions. The 2 faces met at the top but had no nape. Each face was served by its own set of appendages. each had knees but no ankles. He had tremendous power, but still can move very quickly. With 2 pairs of arms, he held swords, a bow, and an arrow. Sukuna refused to comply with imperial directives. He threatened and plundered the people, whereupon the emperor dispatched the founder of Wanibe no Omi Nani Waneko, Takefurukuma, to vanquish the creature. History is written by the victors and ultimately the Yamato people, later becoming the modern-day Japanese, of which Emperor Nintoku was king, crushed Sukuna, erasing his history and establishing him as a villain for Japan. An example by which all other would-be kings would learn a valuable lesson. Though, as we know from war propaganda from more modern times, othering another person or group is one of the quickest and easiest ways to create unity in defeating an opposing group. The Americans did it to the Japanese in World War II, and the Japanese did it right back. In modern-day Gifu, in the plains that Sukuna would have called home, local legend and history states that Sukuna was far from being a villain or monster. In fact, he's worshipped as a minor kami, having been credited with bringing Buddhism to the region and being a benefactor of many shrines within the area. It's said that he was the head of a rival and large regional clan who, either by proximity, resources, or amassing military power, threatened the new Emperor Nintoku, resulting in a war and the collapse and consolidation of the Hida into the Yamato. The villain of Jujutsu Kaisen, and albeit minor villain in the Nihon Shoki, may very well have been an alright guy, which to his credit may point to a side of Sukuna we haven't seen before, if we see at all, and may point to Sukuna being a good guy who was destroyed all those years ago by the very families and higher-ups that Gojo sensei seems so quick to villainize. Again, I don't know, I'm just speculating here, but that would be pretty cool, if you ask me. Jujutsu Kaisen is many things, and aside from the elements we discussed earlier, is every bit of fun shonen fodder I've come to love from Shonen Jump, and was honestly not expecting to be such of a fan when it made waves last season. Yuji is easy to like and has a disposition that strangely reminds me of Hinata from Haikyuu. Fun, easygoing, likable, but downright unnerving if you get on his bad side. The action scenes are equally as beautiful, showcasing Mappa's skill at packing in as much frenetic energy and weight to each gut-wrenching blow as shows like Ippo and Attack on Titan, and make sure that you're going to come back to rewatch those scenes on YouTube long after the episode ends. There's a levity and creativity in these fights that help suspend your disbelief when people go flying through walls or punch holes through cement, and some seriously cool concepts being teased early on in the series. Plus, can we just talk about how smooth Gojo Sensei is real quick? This guy is everything I liked about Kakashi when he was first introduced in Naruto, as an aloof and goofy mentor with power in spades. If I had to criticize one thing of the series so far, it would be that it's moving maybe a bit too fast, and while it's not enough of a deal breaker yet, I hope they take more time to flesh out characters moving forward because, and again, spoilers here, I did not have enough time with Junpei to ultimately feel as bad as I feel like the show wanted me to feel, and the same could be said for the supporting cast, who, in my opinion, are strong characters but need time to develop and introduce themselves and to interact with Yuji, so that when they talk about having learned to accept Yuji as a person and not just a vessel of Sukuna, I see the growth they have, other than just being told that the friendship developed off-screen. Ultimately, small complaints in what is becoming my favorite shonen of recent memory, and if Mappa handles it right and the manga continues to mature and produce strong source material, we could be looking at a series that anime fans will be talking about for a long time to come. And if not, at least we have that fucking banger of an ending theme.
And that's it. That's the video. You guys got through the whole thing. Thank you honestly so much for sitting through it and just being there to listen to my thoughts and hopefully join in and talk to me about this show and other anime related stuff going forward. You can follow me on Twitter or talk to me in the comments of this video, but this was something that was really fun to do, putting this little video together and talking about curses in Japan and tying it together with all kinds of interesting stories from the past and the present and making it about Jujutsu Kaisen and anime in general. That's something that felt good to do and was really fun to do. So, I'm going to keep making videos, and hopefully the next one comes out a little bit sooner than this one did in comparison to when I released my first video on this channel. I think this has really helped me reconnect with anime in a way and be a part of the discourse just here within the anime and, YouTube community and kind of join and put my voice into all that. So it's been a fun journey. Anyway, I'm rambling and I'm not really sure what I'm saying because it's almost midnight and I'm tired. But guys, thanks again for watching this thing. And I'll see you all in the next video. Peace. And I love you. And good night or good morning. Bye. Bye.